everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video we are doing my December reading wrap up. So I read 3 books in December and I DNF'd 1. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We will start with my DNF, which I did DNF towards the beginning of December. And that is The Maid of Sherwood Forest by Sian Bessey. Now this is a Robin Hood retelling, which I absolutely adore. I love Robin Hood retellings, so I was very excited for this book. But after I got it, I realized that it is a time travel book. I didn't know that before until I really went to get it from the library. And I tend to avoid books that have a lot of magic in them, although I'm not super strict about it. I kind of go back and forth on my conviction on that, which is probably not good because you don't want to be wishy-washy. And I have read and enjoyed a lot of time travel books in the past. However, while I was reading this one, I just wasn't feeling great about it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this one down. And so I DNF'd it purely for that reason, just that I wasn't feeling super comfortable with the whole time travel thing. And yeah. The first book that I finished in December was Christmas in the Castle Library by Swindell. If you watch my top 10 books of 2025, you know that this one made it onto that list. It was excellent. This is the first book in the Castle Library series, and I also really love the second book. This follows Ellie. She gets she's a PhD student, and she gets a researcher historian residency in the country of Lethersby. In the country of Lethersby, and so she's researching. They have a lost princess that she's researching for her PhD, and she meets a fellow historian there, and things take off from there. It's really good. It's got a little bit of a mystery. It is a royal romance because she is researching in the royal palace, in the royal library, and it's really good. I really enjoyed it. The second book that I read in December was another Christmas book. It was The Christmas Book Flood by Roseanna in White. I really enjoyed it. It was it takes place in Iceland during World War II, and that was super fun for me because I was actually in Iceland in September. And I learned some facts that I had not known before. I did not know that the Americans and the British occupied Iceland during the war. The British occupied it first, and then the Americans came in, and I actually learned that while I was on my trip to Iceland. So then reading a book that takes place during the American occupation in Iceland was really fun. And it is so in Iceland they have a tradition of buying books and gifting them to each other and reading them on Christmas Eve, and this story is kind of how that tradition started in the war, when all they really had in Iceland, everything else, that had to be imported, was obviously on shortage because of the war, but they had paper. And so books were very big in Iceland during the war. Anyway, it's a really good story. I gave it 5 stars. I also gave this one 5 stars. I don't think I mentioned that. I gave this one 5 stars, of course, because it was in my top 10 this year. I gave The Christmas Book Flood 5 stars as well. I really, really enjoyed it. And then the third book that I read in December was also a new Roseanna in White book, and that was The Island Bookshop, which she published in 2025 with Guidepost. This book is a dual timeline. It takes place partially in the present day and partially in the 1930s. So in the 1930s, you have a woman that is pregnant, and she is fleeing Croatia before the start of the war, after Mussolini takes over Croatia. She's fleeing here to America. Her husband came over a few months before, and she's hoping to reunite with him. And then in the modern storyline, you have Kennedy, who has been working at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and her sister gets injured by falling off a ladder and has a concussion. And so Kennedy has to come home to their home in the Outer Banks for the summer and help run their family bookstore while her sister recovers. And she has a bit of a second chance romance with her childhood friend, Wes. this book, I gave it 3.5 stars. However, I did that generously, which I'll explain why in a second. First of all, let me just say, I was so intrigued by the historical storyline. I wanted way more of it. This book was about, I think, 18 chapters. 18 chapters, and only 4 of them took place in the historical timeline. So the majority of the book was done in present day, and I was just a lot more intrigued by the historical timeline, so I was always hoping to get back to it, and then I only had 4 chapters of it, which disappointed me. As far as the modern day storyline goes, the romance is a situation that I think happens quite a lot in our society and in our in people's lives, and so I appreciated that that White kind of tackled this issue that can happen, especially with childhood friends and friend groups, and I appreciated that she tackled the issue and that she dealt with it in this book. However, there were parts of it that the way it was dealt kind of irked me a little bit, and so there was parts of that I didn't like, and then I also didn't necessarily feel like the link between the historical and the modern storyline was that strong. Like, there was a link, but I didn't feel like the stakes were really there. Like, they said the stakes were there, but it just didn't feel like it during the narrative. I was like, I don't know if it's that important. I mean, I get why you're saying it is, but I don't know. So I wasn't really feeling it with this book. However, I did give it 3.5 stars because I think that it could have been done a lot better. I think it had a lot of potential, and if any of you know Roseanna and White, you know that this past year she's been dealing with cancer and cancer treatments, and I can't imagine writing a book while going through intense treatments like that. So I was like, the fact that she wrote a book at all, I have to give her props for it. And so I was very generous with my rating, because I was like, I mean, of course her book is going to suffer a little bit because of what she's going through. I can't sit here and like drag this book through the mud when I know that she was not at her best while writing it. And so so yeah, I think that I really appreciate the fact that she even wrote this book at all, considering what's going on in her life. And I just think that she's been a real like blessing and a real encouragement during her time. And I know that, you know, normally you want the people around her to bless her during this time and to encourage her in this time, but the fact that she has been working and writing and doing, you know, her and her husband's publishing business and doing her newsletters during this time, I'm like, wow, she's just such an inspiration. Like, yeah, I appreciate the fact that this book is here at all. And so that's the note I'm gonna end it on. So yeah, I read 3 books in December. This isn't a super long video, but that's about it, and I will see you guys at the end of January.